Hello, my name is Brian Benton, and I'm going to be your instructor for this training course in AutoCAD 2015. This course is designed for beginners, and maybe you've dabbled in AutoCAD before, or perhaps it's just been a while since you've used it. Either way, the course assumes that you know nothing about AutoCAD, so don't worry. Each course builds on the previous one, and several chapters have projects at the end of them. Many of those projects pick up where the last one left off, ending in a final project where you will use all of the skills you've learned to create a two-dimensional drawing of a small movie theater. Over the course of a few hours, I'm going to show you how to create CAD drawings from scratch, how to edit them, print them, and make digital versions that you can email to clients anywhere in the globe. Throughout this course, I will show you tips and tricks. I'll demonstrate and explain good CAD practices and methods. Not only will you learn how to draw in CAD, but you will learn how to manage the internal workings of your files. CAD is more than just lines and text, it's data. Some of it is geometric, and some of it is numeric. In this course, you will learn how to draw and how to draw accurately. This course will give you a foundation of skills that you'll be able to take along with you and into many different design fields. There are many projects throughout the course that build upon each other. In the end, you will take these projects and combine them and use them for a final project. This video will teach you how to start a file from scratch, what tools to use, and how to use them. We'll also look at something called blocks that will allow you to recreate similar objects over and over again without redrawing them. You will get to learn how to use different editing tools that allow you to change the line work in your drawings. Text and dimensions are also key points in AutoCAD, and we're going to cover them. I'll show you how to manage their many settings so that you can annotate your drawing according to what you need. Each lesson will give you step-by-step instructions on how to use AutoCAD. They will also show you different approaches that can be taken to get your work done more easily and efficiently. There are many ways to work in AutoCAD and to draw, and we'll explore as many of them as we can. These are but a few of the topics that we will cover in this series, and we will go into great detail for each one. With the training that you get from this video, you will be able to make highly organized two-dimensional drawings in AutoCAD. Good luck, and let's get started. Hello, my name is Brian Benton, and I'm the author of this training video for AutoCAD. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch these videos and for investing in your AutoCAD training. Learning to use AutoCAD will be a great step in your career. AutoCAD is a highly complex program used by thousands of people around the globe. I've been using AutoCAD since release 10. Back then, we used tablets or pucks and styluses, and it was in DOS, not Windows. It's changed quite a bit over the years, but the fundamentals are still very similar. I began as a drafter, redrawing old board drawings in CAD for a railroad tank car manufacturer. I've also worked for mechanical, structural, civil, and marine engineering firms throughout my career, and it spanned just over 20 years. Along with my design drafting experience, I have an associate's degree in design drafting. I've spent many hours creating CAD standards and procedures at several of the places I've worked for. I'm a member of the ADDA, the American Design Drafting Association, the SWFAP, or the Southwest Florida AutoCAD Professionals, and AUGI, the Autodesk User Group International. AUGI is a volunteer organization that consists of Autodesk product users working together to help each other out. As a member of AUGI, I'm a contributor as a writer to their monthly magazine, AUGI World, from time to time. I've also written many columns for their monthly online newsletter, AUGI Hot News. I've also been the production manager for AUGI Hot News as well. And I've created and led classes for their online training program. I've also been fortunate enough to work with authors like Ellen Finkelstein to updating her book, The AutoCAD Bible, and as well as mastering AutoCAD with George O'Meara. One of my most exciting activities was working for Autodesk themselves to create new sample content for one of the versions of AutoCAD. I created new templates and new dynamic blocks that take advantage of the parametric design abilities in AutoCAD, as well as other sample drawings that are available online through Autodesk's website. My writing has also included several articles from Catalyst magazine, and I worked for a very long time as their weekly newsletter tips review editor. I also write for Autodesk's small business blog called Line Shape Space, who's recently been awarded an honorary Webby Award. In my spare time, I like to work with Autodesk as an alpha and beta tester. I've been doing this since testing began on AutoCAD 2008. I've enjoyed this as it's helped me to stay up to date with AutoCAD's latest features. I enjoy writing and speaking about AutoCAD and related topics, and if anyone would like to contact me with a question about the training series, or if you have a question in general about CAD, please feel free to visit my website at cadablog.com, cadablog.com. You can comment on my posts, sign up for alerts, or ask me a question. I hope you have enjoyed this training video. What is AutoCAD? Obviously, you have some sort of a concept as to what AutoCAD is or can do, or else you wouldn't be here right now. There are many things that it is and many things that it is not. AutoCAD has been around since Autodesk first released it way back in 1982. Back then, it merely drew lines and added single-line text. Today, AutoCAD is a design tool, a drawing tool, a modeling tool, and a database manager. The data it manages can be in many forms: raw data, points, lines, images, and more. The things that AutoCAD designs, draws, and models are limitless. Many architects, engineers, and textile designers use AutoCAD to make their designs. AutoCAD 2015 is the 29th release of AutoCAD and was issued in March and April of 2014. It added many new features to AutoCAD's abilities. You can see many of those in our What's New in AutoCAD 2015 chapter. AutoCAD has many advantages to drawing things by hand. Many of the advantages it gives you are due to the nature of digital design and to using computers. The data in the drawing file is more easily edited and repeated. AutoCAD can help to generate data or line work that we would always have to input by hand. It also links data from multiple sources and can share its data with others. These are the reasons we use CAD. It allows us to do more because we have to do less. After all, CAD is an acronym for Computer-Aided Design. What can we make with AutoCAD? Anything that needs to be constructed, modified, developed, or illustrated. It's not just for engineers and architects, though these groups would be the most common users of AutoCAD. Textile designers use it, surveyors use it, and even movie makers use AutoCAD. AutoCAD is also used in museums to lay out displays. So there are too many uses for AutoCAD for us to list. There are, though, two ways to look at the files that are created in AutoCAD. One is to look at them as drawings. The other is to look at them as data. In fact, though, both cases are true and both have their place. Most of the files that we will look at in this tutorial will be drawing files. But we will also look at data files. Don't assume that data is just a list of names or numbers. Anything needed for a design purpose is data. The lines we create in CAD are data. The points that we insert and define are data. Images we attach, and especially like aerial photographs, are all full of data used in our design process. Data can be gotten from many different sources. It's important to know what it is and how you need to use it. These cases will vary from project to project and industry to industry. In the case of an architect, some of the data required will be site or lot information. An architect will also need to know the local building code and regulations. Other data might include the existing conditions of the job site and building requirements from the client. An architect will take this data and insert it into AutoCAD in many different ways. Most of that will be via drafting techniques. That information will be placed in a data file. Now that the data has been placed into CAD, the architect needs to create a drawing file. A drawing file will have the title block information, notes, instructions, as well as the line work necessary to display the model that was designed in the data file. Sometimes these two files will be combined into one file, and that's perfectly fine. Other times they will be kept separate. It'll just depend on the scope and the needs of the project. AutoCAD allows us to do this. In a hand or board drawing, the drawing is the data file. They are not kept separate. You can't do that. This is just one of the many advantages to using CAD as opposed to manual drawings. Now, AutoCAD has come a long way from its initial creation back in the early 1980s. What was once a 2D drafting aid is now a full-fledged 3D modeling design tool. Not everyone has a need for full-out 3D, but we have to start somewhere. So once you have mastered the 2D aspects of AutoCAD, you will be ready to progress into a much larger and more realistic world. Before we can begin learning how to use AutoCAD, we need to install the software, assuming you haven't done that already. If you have, then you're probably fine just moving along to the next section without any issues. If you haven't and you want some help setting it up beforehand, then this section is for you. Before you begin installing the software, make sure you have the file to install it with. Also, make sure you have your serial number and product key. If you don't have those serial numbers, then you're just going to use a 30-day trial of AutoCAD, which is perfectly fine for the purposes of this video. I'll show you how to install it using either method. So there are essentially two different ways to get your software to install AutoCAD with. One is as a digital download from the Autodesk website. Another is from installation media, like a thumb drive, a jump drive, or one is from a DVD drive or CD. So if you've downloaded the file directly from Autodesk's website or via a link from an email they sent you once you've purchased the software, you should get a file that looks something like this: AutoCAD 2015, English, if you're using English, Windows 64-bit if you're using 64-bit, and it's an exe file. Once you get that file, double-click it to run it, and this will extract your installation files to a folder called C:/Autodesk on your hard drive. Do that. I've already done that to save some time. Now when you do that, find that file and folder, and there should be a folder in here called setup.exe. Once you find that file, you can run that file to install AutoCAD. Now, if you have a CD, DVD, or a jump drive, a flash drive, it should start up automatically. If it doesn't, then just browse to the proper folder, wherever your disk is or your thumb drive, and you should find a folder that looks something like this, and it should say setup.exe. Once you find that file, double-click it and run it. Make sure to give permission to your computer to install the program. Once you insert your installation CD or DVD, or you put in your installation thumb drive, it should automatically start up and bring you to this page. And again, if it doesn't, then browse to where I showed you and run that setup.exe file. And all of those methods will bring up this type of window. This is the installation window for AutoCAD 2015. You have several different buttons and things I want to show you here before we get started. These two items here, the Create Deployment and the Install Tools and Utilities, are more for CAD managers and IT managers for larger corporations that have a lot of CAD users, workstations, and licenses of AutoCAD to manage. So if you're just one person or just a couple of people and all you want or need to do is install AutoCAD directly onto a workstation, then this is the button for you. It's a big giant install button. Now, before we click that, I want to show you a couple of these other files here. We have the README file. Click it, it will open up your browser and bring you to a web page that gives you a little bit of information about your version of AutoCAD that you're going to install. This might include some last-minute bits of information that Autodesk didn't get into the install package that they delivered to everybody, so it may be something important on here that you might need to know about. The button here in the middle is the Systems Requirements. Again, this opens up a web browser and it takes you directly to Autodesk's website, and it talks about the hardware requirements for your computer. So this is the bare minimum. So if your machine is not as powerful as this, you're not going to be able to run it. In fact, this is, again, an absolute bare minimum requirement just to turn on AutoCAD and use some of its basic functions. This is not the ideal situation by any means. You need something much newer and more powerful than this, really, to use AutoCAD on a higher end level. But for all purposes of this training video, these minimum requirements should suit you just okay. And this last button here is the Installation Help. This is a website that Autodesk has put together that has a lot of helpful information if you have any questions on installing AutoCAD or any of their products. Now, once we're ready, we click on the Install button. And at any time, though, if you want to exit or stop the installation process, move down here to the Exit button and click it, and that will stop your installation process. This is the End User License Agreement and Services contract. You have to accept this to be able to install AutoCAD, so make sure you click the Accept button. Now, I suggest that you do read this. I know it's really long and difficult to read, and just make sure that you do agree with it, and then if you do, select the I Accept button and then click Next. This is where we will make some settings for the license type and enter in your product key information. This is an English version that I'm installing, and right now I don't have any other options. If you did, they would show up here. My license type that I'm installing is a standalone license type. That means I'm installing one license that I have on one machine. The network license is something different altogether. It allows a company to buy multiple network licenses but install it on as many machines as they want to. And then they share the license across the machines. That works well if you have a case where you have CAD users who only need to use AutoCAD a few times a day or a few times a week or even a month or so. They're not using it all day long. So that's a nice thing. I'm assuming though for this video that you're using a standalone license. Now, if you're going to use this for just a 30-day trial, you need to select this option. That will put AutoCAD on your computer for 30 days. Once the 30 days expires, you can no longer use AutoCAD. You can't access it at all. You can still get to all of the files that you've created and used. Those are yours, but the software will only work for 30 days. And that calendar day starts once you install AutoCAD. So it's not like the first of the month or the middle of the month, a date type of a thing. It's 30 days from the day you install it. So make sure you don't install it now and then wait a week or two to start using it, because then you have lost that amount of time on your trial period. If you have purchased a full license of AutoCAD, you can enter in your serial number information here. Now the product key is typically the same on all versions of AutoCAD or whatever the product is. So I'm going to enter that one in, and it will give you a green check mark when you've entered it in correctly. Now I'm going to type in my serial number here. Once you've entered in the proper serial number, it will give you a green check mark, and then we're ready to click next. Here's where you go and make some selections for the items that you want to install. It'll tell you here in the bottom right how much disk space is being used by your installation. This will tell you on the right here how much room you have on your computer's hard drive. I have plenty of room, so I'm going to install everything. And I suggest that you do install everything unless, of course, size is a problem for you. Then you can turn some of the things off. I'm going to install Autodesk 360 because I find that to be a very useful tool. Autodesk 360 is a free service provided by Autodesk. It's cloud-based. You can store files there, you can back up files there automatically through AutoCAD. It helps you to manage any applications that you purchase from AutoCAD, and it also allows you to share files with other people throughout the world. You can also save your customized settings to your Autodesk 360 account, and you can reinstall them on another computer, or if you have to reinstall AutoCAD, you can reestablish your custom settings right away. Autodesk Recap is a 3D visualization raw data formatting tool. It's a third-party tool that Autodesk has created that comes extra. It doesn't work inside AutoCAD, but it's outside of it. If you've done 3D scanning of objects or rooms or buildings even, Autodesk Recap will take that raw data, process it, and put it into a format that AutoCAD can look at, giving you a 3D model of the environment or the item that you've scanned. So that's something that you can turn off if you don't think you're going to use that at all. Now remember, anything you don't install now, you can always go back and reinstall later on. Now for the Autodesk AutoCAD 2015 settings. Again, I suggest that you turn everything on. Just click on the buttons here, 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 and here, and that will allow you to install them. Different installation types, typical or custom. Typical will be perfectly fine for this training video and for everything that you want to do, and it's going to take up a little bit less space. Make sure you have Express tools turned on, and you can create a desktop shortcut automatically if that's what you want to do, and typically most people do. Now I want to customize this a little bit. I'm going to click this green button here, and that makes sure that everything is going to be installed. You can see my disk space requirement went up just a little bit, and if I click it here, it turns all of them off, and my requirement for my room really drops. But again, I suggest that you turn all those on. Now, if there were any service packs available, it would let me know here, and it would give me the opportunity to download them and install them right away. So now that I've finished this, I'm going to click the install button, and Autodesk will go through its various settings and setups and make sure that I have everything I need. It has to install some back-end type things like DirectX and C++. If they're already there and they're the latest versions, then it will just leave it alone. But if you don't have them on your computer, it will go ahead and install them for you. Now it's going to take a few minutes here, so I'm going to pause the video for a while and we'll come back when it's all done. Once the installation is finished and everything is successful, this is the screen that the Autodesk installer will show you. It'll tell you that you've successfully installed everything. It'll be nice blues and greens. If you get something that has a red or red X on it, and it'll tell you, hey, there was an error, and it will often tell you exactly what went wrong. You may just need to reboot your computer and try to reinstall those items one more time. But otherwise, everything is good. You can scroll through your entire list here, make sure it is okay. Once you're finished, just click on the Finish button. Now, you may get this prompt or you may not. If so, then I suggest you go ahead and restart your computer at this time and get started working in AutoCAD. In this section, we will look at AutoCAD for the very first time. So we've just installed it, and now you need to turn it on. If you've never turned it on before, that's okay. If you've cheated and you've already peeked, that's fine too. I don't have a problem with that, of course. If you've used AutoCAD once or twice, then you might not need to go through this section at all, and that's okay. If you haven't installed the software yet, please refer to the video that we discuss that process in. Unless, of course, you're feeling brave enough and you've installed it on your own, or you just wanted to jump right in. Either way, that's fine. Installation does take a while, so be prepared to wait. Now let's assume AutoCAD has been installed and you're ready to turn it on for the very first time. So if you have a desktop icon, just click on it and that will launch the software. Now it's the very first time I'm launching the software, so we're going to get a few little prompts here and there on some things. If you've installed an AutoCAD version on your computer before and you've worked in it, you've customized the setting, and now this is a new version, you're going to get an option to migrate all of those custom settings over. I'm assuming since this is a beginners-based video series that that's not the case for you, so we're really not going to get into that. Now, I suggest, though, if that does happen, that you just ignore it. You just hit cancel. You can always migrate your settings over later on. So this first initial setup might take it a few minutes as it's loading some customized files for the first time, making sure everything is set up. So just be prepared. Splash screen is going to come up like it is right now, and this is very typical. Now, throughout this video, I'm going to use a term out of the box. And when I say something is out of the box, I'm referring to the default settings of AutoCAD. So just keep that in mind. Now, you're going to have some options here when you turn it on. This is a privacy agreement. And this just lets you know that you've read it. You click on the link here. This will open up a browser and it will show you those privacy settings. Essentially, they're telling you what type of information they will and will not be collecting on you in your use. And there are some things that you can opt in for so that Autodesk will collect what type of commands you're using and how often. So I suggest that you read through this so that you understand what's going on. So click this box here, it says, yes, I agree, and continue on with the initial setup. Now, if you have a 30-day trial that you're using, it's essentially going to just take you right into it. But if you have entered in your product licensing code, you're going to have to activate your product. So when this happens, you'll get to this page right here, and you can just try it for a 30-day period, and you'll get this information right here. It'll tell you how many days that you have left on your trial run. So every time you start AutoCAD, this will show up and it will tell you, hey, you have 29 days left, 28 days left, whatever the case may be. I'm going to activate my product so that I can use it fully, but your process will go about the same way. If your serial number that you've entered in is not correct, it will tell you right away. And if that's the case, if you have some problems with it, you can always go and use the 30-day trial and then figure those issues out later on. So once you've activated your Autodesk license, or you've just clicked the try it button for the 30 days, you'll go on to the next step. So if you're running AutoCAD under a trial period like I'm demonstrating here now, it will tell you every time you turn it on, and it will indicate the number of days. Now, whenever you want to go to and activate it, you just click the activate button and that'll bring you right there. I'm going to make a few adjustments to my screen here for AutoCAD so you can see all of it, and then we'll continue on. So now we are in AutoCAD. When you first start AutoCAD for the very first time, you'll have this new tab option that comes up. I'm going to start off and open up a blank file template. I'm going to click on the templates button and click on AutoCAD.dwt. Now this will start a brand new file and it's blank. We're going to close this design feed box here, and whenever you first turn AutoCAD on, you're going to get a bunch of pop-ups giving you information about your setup. This is telling me my hardware acceleration is turned on and functioning, and that's great. And you'll get other pop-ups here. This is telling me that I really should sign into Autodesk 360, and right now I'm not going to. I just want to show you what AutoCAD looks like. So let's take a look around the interface so that you can familiarize yourself with what it looks like, what these areas do, and the terms that will be used for them. That way, when I mention what they are, you'll know what I'm talking about. So this big open area right here with this grid work on it, this is called the drawing area. This is where you're going to draw your objects. Everything's going to be right here. This is your actual drawing file. Now, as you move the mouse around, back and forth, up and down, the crosshairs move with it. When you move into the interface area up here, the crosshairs kind of stay where they're at, and it turns into an arrowhead. And when I move the arrowhead along all these buttons, I can click them. Now this big red A looking thing up here at the top left of the screen, this is called the application menu. Think of it as like a file button in a pull-down menus that a lot of software has or used to have. The application button is where you go to open up files, close them, save them, print them, along with some other options. So you can see that little black arrow there in it. That means that if you click on that object, just as in the case here or here, then if I click on it, it will pop up another menu, and this is where you can get to a lot of the different functions inside AutoCAD. So right next to our application menu, or the big red A as I like to call it, you have the quick access toolbar. These tools right here. A lot of these tools you'll find here, but they're very simple and just a new, open, save, save as, and print. You also have undo and redo. So there are just a few tools that you're going to need to get to often and quickly. This toolbar is also very easy to customize. We'll take a look at that later on. So your main interface tool is the drawing area because that's where your drawing takes place. But the main tool for entering commands is the ribbon. That's this guy right up here. The ribbon is a tabbed area, and you can see here's a home tab, insert tab, annotate tab, and so on. Every time you click on one of these tabs, it brings up new sets of what are called panels. And each of these, like in the home tab, has several panels. This one has the draw panel, modify, annotation, layers, and etc. Switching tabs will activate different panels. And when you're in a different panel, you can click on the command icons to execute them. Everything you're going to need will be found up here. Now, another way to execute commands in AutoCAD is through what's called the command line. It's found here at the bottom of the screen. That's this guy right here. You can directly input commands right into it by typing them on the command line. So you can click inside here and then start typing in a command like the line command. Press enter, and now I can draw lines. Also, I can just start typing. I don't necessarily have to put it down in here. And what's going to happen is one of two things. Right now I have on what's called dynamic input. And that means I'm inputting dynamically while I'm working right at my cursor. Now this sort of emulates a smaller, more condensed version of the command line. And you see I can start drawing lines right away. We're going to talk more about the ribbon, the command line, the dynamic input, and all these other items that you're going to use. Now, if you've used AutoCAD prior to release 2009, the ribbon is going to be something new to you. And one thing we can do in AutoCAD is switch our workspace environments. And we can switch them very simply. If we come down here to the status bar, that's on the bottom right-hand side here. If we click on this little gear, and then we have three different workspaces. The drafting and annotation, that's your standard 2D drawing and annotation type of environment. Then we have two 3D modeling environments, a 3D basics and a 3D modeling. If you click one of those, it will change the user interface of AutoCAD so that you now have these different types of tools. So right here we have a lot of 3D modeling tools. Now we're not going to get into those too much inside this video, so we're just going to be staying in the drafting and annotation workspace environment. Now a lot of other things you're going to see here are called palettes. There are many different types of palettes. Some of them are the layer properties palette, tool palettes, the properties palette, design center, and the one I just closed called design feed. Again, we're going to cover these topics in greater detail later on, but we will use them. And in fact, the command line itself is a palette. Palettes, you can click them, move them around, stretch them, make them wider, taller, thinner, auto collapse them, hide them. You can do a lot of different things. But they will provide to you a lot of different tools that we're going to refer to throughout this training video. Before we get started into our training sessions, I wanted to have you work on a very small project that will incorporate some of the very basic functions of AutoCAD. Don't worry about understanding everything you see here. This project is meant as a sort of icebreaker, like an activity at the opening of a party, to help all of the guests get to know one another so they can enjoy themselves more. That's what I'm going to do. That way you won't be shocked when you see first all of the commands they're going to throw at you. But that's what I'm going to do with this one though. I'm just going to sort of push you into the deep end and we're going to do a lot of different things. So if you haven't started AutoCAD, go ahead and start. Now we want to open up just a blank template file. AutoCAD.dwt is fine. So if you have a file open already, you need to click on this little plus sign here called New Tab. This will bring up what's called the New Tab. Or if you haven't had anything open yet before, it should open up right here to this file for you. In any case, this is where you want to get to. Okay, so we're going to come to the Get Started button, and we're going to click down here where it says Templates, and we're going to select the AutoCAD.dwt file. Now, we're going to use a lot of different things. We're going to use some basic commands. We're going to use a little tool palette to insert some things here real quick, and we're going to use some of the function keys. Now, I want you to press F8. Now, it should give you a little prompt down here on the command line that says Ortho On. If you press it again and it says Ortho Off, then that's not what you want. You want to press it just so that it's Ortho On. F8, just like all the other function keys, are toggle switches. They turn different aspects of AutoCAD on or off. And you'll notice probably too that this button here turns blue when I press F8 and it turns it on. If it's blue, it's on. If it's gray, it's off. Now I can also click here on the status bar to turn these things off and on. So whichever method you want to use, go right ahead and do that. But we want to use the ortho command. Now the ortho command is just a way of locking in horizontal and vertical movements. And that's what we want to do. Now we're going to start drawing a rectangle, and we're going to use the rectangle command. So just type in on your keyboard REC for rectangle. That's short. That's a little keyboard shortcut, and we'll talk about those again later on, of course. This will just be a way for you to use your commands in a shorter way. You can get to them much quicker. Press the Enter key. Now pick a point, any point on your screen. It doesn't matter where. That'll be our first corner for our rectangle. Now we want to make this rectangle 50 units wide by 30 units tall. So you'll move to the right and up from where you're first pointed at. Type in the number 50. Press the Tab key. That'll make it 50 units wide. And type in 30, and that'll make it 30 units tall, and press Enter. Now take your mouse with the scroll wheel on it and double click that scroll wheel. This will do what's called a zoom extents. It zooms all the way out so you can see all of the line work in your file. Now if you scroll on that scroll wheel, that'll zoom in and zoom out. Now you can also pan around in your file by clicking and holding that scroll wheel. That'll allow you to pan. So you're going to use that a lot. Zoom in and out and pan, and then the double click to zoom extents. Now we're going to offset this rectangle because we're going to build kind of a wall for a building here. We're just going to offset it 5 units, and we're going to offset it to the inside. So come up here to the ribbon, and we're going to go to the Modify tab, and we're going to go to this little button right here. That's called the Offset. Now you may have noticed that whenever you move your mouse over any of these commands, it gives you what's called a tool tip. It gives you the name of the command that icon represents. And then if you wait a few more seconds, it'll give you a little tooltip telling you kind of what's going to go on or kind of how to use that command. So if you don't know what any of these buttons mean, then you can just learn them by slowly moving your mouse over them, and they will show you what the command is. So we want to use the offset command. So click it. Now we have to tell it the distance. Type in 0.5 for half of a unit. Press the Enter key. Now when you hover over the line, it's going to highlight. We're going to select it. The highlight lets you know which line you've selected. I'm going to zoom in a little bit to kind of show you what's going on here. You get a little bit of a preview of what's going to happen when you're using your command. So where I put the mouse at compared to the line that I selected to offset, that's where that's going to offset to. I want it to go to the inside. So move your mouse down, move it to the inside of our rectangle, and left click. And there you go. You've just made your first wall for your drawing. Now to get out of a command, you can just press the Escape key. Okay, so there is our rectangle command and the offset command. You're going to use the offset command quite a bit. Now we're going to open up a tool palette. We're going to do that by pressing the Control key and the number 3 key both at the same time. So press Control and 3. But this is a palette, and specifically it's the tool palette. It has a lot of different tabs on it, giving you access to a lot of different things. Now what we want is to get a door. So we're going to pick Architectural, and we want this Door Imperial button right here. Click it, and then move the mouse over into your options right here. You can see this door is a little big for what we have drawn, and that's okay. Now what you're doing here is inserting a block. We'll talk about blocks later on. But a block is just a set of lines or text or anything that you can create and it's saved together, and it's set up as a block, and a block is made so that you can easily reuse line work that you've created before. For example, like this door. So click somewhere on your screen, and that's where it's going to be inserted. Now this door is actually set up for architectural units, which means it's going to be working with inches for its units. Now we've set this up the way we're using our drawing now. We didn't set up units, but I'm using it in a way that it's using feet for its units. We'll talk about units and how they work in AutoCAD later on. Right now we're going to scale the door. We're going to make it a little bit smaller. So type in SC for the scale command, press enter. Select the door, and you select the door by moving the mouse right over the door or the object and then left clicking, and it'll turn to a highlighted blue once it's been picked. Once you've picked it, press return, and then just pick anywhere around here inside your door. And you can see when you move your mouse, it's scaling it up, giving it a big number. Now the scale command works in a couple of different ways. If you give it a scale value of greater than 1, then the item is going to be bigger. If the scale value is less than 1, then it's going to get smaller. And what we want to do now is type in 1/12. We're scaling this by 1/12. It's going from inches to feet. Press return. Now our door is normal size. Type M for move, press the enter key, pick the door, press the enter key again, zoom in with your scroll wheel, and we're going to snap to this endpoint. So we're going to type in E and D on the command line. Just type in E and D, press return, left click right there in the door. Now you can see I'm going to zoom out with my scroll wheel and can move this door around wherever I want it to. I'm going to pan. You can pan and zoom with the mouse while you're inside a command. Now type in NEA. This is another O snap. We're going to talk about O snaps later on in depth. Snaps or O snaps will force your line work to go into specific places on your other objects. Press enter and then click anywhere on the inside wall. And so there we go. We've entered in our door. So zoom in, kind of center this on your page, and then let's type in the word trim, T-R-I-M. Press return. And we're going to do a crossing selection. Pick up here at the top left somewhere and drag your mouse to the right and down. And it should be a solid line with a blue area. And as you do that, it's going to pick that door. Left click again. Press return. And now we're going to click on these lines. What we're doing is removing the lines from our work environment. So zoom in here and get this little line too. That was the trim command. Right click, press enter to cancel the command, or press escape. The trim command trims things away. It cuts things away for you. So that's the very basics of AutoCAD. There are a lot of different little tools that we use there, but these are tools and a process that you're going to use all the time in AutoCAD. It's actually that simple. It may seem overwhelming to you right now, but that's okay. We're going to break all of these things down and look at them one at a time and go into details on how to use them and when to use them. And we're going to do that in this video.